Hey everybody, Citizens in Action Clark County here. There is so much information coming out right now, it's difficult to even make these videos before something else gets reported. So let's start with some local news. First, recently we hear that Misty Noel, wife of former Sheriff Jamey Noel, is next in line for possible arrest and charges brought against her.
The former Clark County Sheriff is charged with 15 felonies, accused of assigning county employees to work on his personal property, selling county vehicles for his own gain, and more.
Today, the special prosecutor said Noel's wife is likely to be the next in line to be charged. Reporter Travis Breeze and photojournalist Jessica Farley are in the Southern Indiana courtroom.
The special prosecutor said today he was prepared to bring criminal charges against Misty Noel, Jamey Noel's wife. The judge even hinted that she might be arrested in the courtroom on Tuesday. That didn't happen, and they need to make sure they know how to bring those charges, but it led to a passionate response from the defense team that it was not the right way to bring it up.
I could arrest her myself according to the statute.
Seated just one row behind her husband, lawyers discussed how and when Misty Noel will be brought into the case.
And I find it a tad bit disheartening that this is how the government's approach to today's proceeding was.
So far, the former sheriff has been accused of using taxpayer money to buy a plane, selling cars out of a volunteer firefighters association, and not declaring child support payments on his taxes. The state prosecutor didn't specify what kind of charges could be coming Misty's way.
The state is now prepared to move forward on criminal charges against certain defendants, primarily Misty Noel.
Rick Hurdle was looking for guidance on how to bring the charges because a special judge has been brought in for the Jamey Noel investigation with no mention of his wife. The judge was willing to have a hearing right then and there.
If you want to arrest her, she's sitting in chair 2, front row.
Well, I gotta have probable cause before I can do that.
Defense attorney Larry Wilder objected to her being arrested when the jurisdiction and bond was not clear.
And the next hearing in this case is scheduled for March 15th.
Notice who's sitting next to Misty Noel in court to her left is wife of John Miller, Maddie Miller. John Miller sits on the county council and has voted to approve new Chapel EMS contracts, which have greatly benefited his friends Jamey Noel and Matt Owen. We were told by sources that Indiana state investigators were told that Miller and Noel were only acquaintances, but that turns out to be very far from the truth. Then we're all wondering if and when Noel will step down from his Republican leadership position, like 9th District GOP chair and Clark County chair, when this article came out stating he will not be stepping down. Reed told News that there were no plans to remove Noel and refused to answer whether he's attended any GOP events since his arrest. We, of course, know that he was invited to the Clark County GOP Christmas party as a guest speaker, and he recently ran the GOP caucus to replace Darcy Schiller on the Clark County Council. So he has very much been active since his arrest in the GOP. Then yesterday, we learned that the 9th District Committee, composed of all the county chairs in the 9th District, met last Friday, January 19th, in an effort to remove him. He submitted his resignation as the district GOP chair that following Saturday, but so far he has not stepped down from the Clark County GOP chair position. In a strange side story about the special Washington County judge assigned to Noel's case, Judge Larry Medlock, the judge's wife was arrested for a DUI around January 12th when she crashed her Mercedes with a blood alcohol level of 0.206. We don't know if that will have any effect on the Noel case, but a few interesting things are to note. She was pulled over by a Salem police officer. When he realized who she was, he turned it over to Indiana State Police. And it states that she kicked some things during her arrest in the front dash of the car, like the computer and GPS device. So I guess when you get arrested as a judge's wife, you get to ride shotgun in the cruiser. They drove her all the way to Scott County Jail to book her. Yesterday, January 22nd, was a pretty big day. Brittany Ferry seems to be cooperating quite a bit with state investigators. News is now reporting over $5 million that Noel spent on personal expenses using his nonprofit credit card for things like cigars, clothes, jewelry, personal utilities, trips, and travel agents. His daughters had credit cards under the nonprofit. He altered HR documents in the Clark County Sheriff's Office to get his brother-in-law retirement pensions he didn't earn. Bradley Kramer wasn't supposed to get the pensions he got, and Bradley Kramer is Misty Noel's sister's husband. He actually paid his child support as well with a new Chapel EMS check. INSCCU is the child support office. Police executed a warrant at Ferry's home in Sellersburg, during which they seized her cell phone. They said it contained numerous text messages between Ferry and Noel, as well as screenshots of other conversations concerning the investigation. They said there were screenshots of conversations from Miss Ferry asking Jamey Noel how much would it cost for her to go away, according to court records. Well, apparently he did not pay her enough because she is spilling the beans. His new Chapel EMS contracts have been approved under very suspicious circumstances since 2020, and that's been well covered in the news. But let's talk a little bit about John Miller for a moment. We got these pictures, which seem to have been removed from John Miller's Facebook page, but they were saved before that removal by citizen journalist Sean Bostock and his team. This is a missing link here because nobody's really focusing on the fact that John Miller sits on our Clark County Council, approves money for Noel's new Chapel EMS contracts, has taken campaign donations from the Noels, seems to be very close with Jamey Noel and Matt Owen. Remember, Miller's wife was sitting with Misty Noel in court. He's not filled out any conflict of interest forms that we're aware of, and did not recuse himself or abstain from any vote due to his conflicts of interest. So what these pictures show is that he's also been an employee of New Chapel EMS, which is not listed on his Facebook page and would put him in direct conflict of interest in approving the funds for those contracts. So pay attention, Clark County, because John Miller just filed to run again for Clark County Council in 2024. Do you really want him back in charge of your money with these connections? Really excellent coverage by citizen journalist Sean Bostock. He also recently covered a huge fire where New Chapel EMS was supposed to be first on the scene, but another fire truck from outside the area got there first with more people to take care of that fire. New Chapel response times are allegedly much slower than they should be. Check out Sean's Facebook page in the links below and follow his stories. They seem to all check out and often come out before the news. I'll tell you, local government is not a fan of Sean Bostock, so all the more reason to follow him. We're going to show you some details about the new Chapel EMS contracts here in Clark County, how they came to be, and who's involved, because we have a big election year in 2024, and you should have knowledge of how your representatives have behaved and voted so you can decide if you want to re-elect them or pick someone new.
Our investigation Wednesday night found New Chapel's response times in Floyd County are not meeting the county's expectations.
We're not getting the quality of service that we're supposed to be getting. We're paying for 2.5 ambulances, but we're not for sure where they're stationed and where they're coming from.
But critics say the company keeps getting contracts because the man behind New Chapel, Chief and CEO Jamey Noel, has the political influence to win them.
Absolutely, I think it's a conflict.
Floyd County Council President Denise Conkle says his dual role as a county contractor and leader in Republican politics gives him an unfair advantage.
I think they should recuse themselves from voting for a vendor who they've received a donation from. I don't think they should vote.
Noel is the former sheriff of Clark County and currently leads the Republican Party at both the county and district levels. Our investigation of county campaign finance records found Noel or his family members donated hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars over the years to Republican politicians with oversight of the ambulance contracts in both counties. Noel denies using campaign contributions as leverage.
Most of the stuff when it comes to politics, obviously, I'm a Republican. Right. I'm involved in Republican leadership. I support Republican candidates. And it's just that simple.
Which brings us to Clark County. In early April, the county signed a 3-year contract extension with New Chapel EMS.
It really took the pressure off in negotiations moving forward, and with inflation, we were tickled to death with the price.
But the troubleshooters found the extension comes with 2 fewer ambulances and costs $250,000 more than a competitor's bid sent in a year ago. Commission President Brian Glover says he was following a subcommittee recommendation to stick with New Chapel, even with the higher price.
I believe we were just getting better coverage for a little bit more money.
Our investigation found the Noels donated to current Clark County Commissioner Connie Sellers and council members Steve Doherty, Kevin Vissing, Jod Miller, and former council member Brittany Faree. Sellers voted for the original ambulance contract in October 2020. Doherty and Vissing voted to fund it later that month. When the county extended the contract in April last year, Doherty, Vissing, Miller, and Faree approved the money to pay for a $262,000 raise.
How do you separate then what's good for you politically and what's good for your company financially?
Well, it's never what's good for my company financially. It's what's best for the community. I don't involve politics when it comes to public safety. I never have and never will.
Indiana only bans campaign contributions from contractors trying to work with the state lottery. Clark County does no such thing, only requiring commissioners and council members to disclose contracts with direct relatives.
I was trying to get a hold of former council member Brittany Faree.
Our investigation also uncovered a lawsuit that was previously sealed between Noel and former council member Faree over the paternity of a child they had together. Court filings showed the two settled the case after working out parenting time and child support. The settlement of the case occurred in 2020, 2 years before Faree voted to fund the increased New Chapel EMS contract price last year. Faree did not return my call. Noel's attorney blocked my questions about the settlement during our interview, but Noel said he doesn't talk to county council members.
I deal with the county commissioners as far as contracts. I don't deal direct with either Clark or Floyd County Council.
Clark County can amend its contract with New Chapel EMS at any time. Floyd County's contract automatically renews at the end of the month.
And it's not just Noel donation here on this campaign form for John Miller in 2020. This is quite a list of donations for Mr. Miller. We've got Misty Noel, there's the $500. We have got John and Paula Jones, $200, the auto dealer. We have got, now you all might recognize some of these names, but Donovan Herod in the mix of Jamey Noel activity. And we have got Matt Owen, $100. Matt Owen's the one who signed the New Chapel contract. Several interesting donations there. John Miller and Matt Owen actually have a business together. It's called Games and Gimmicks. I'm not sure what type of business this is, but it was created in 2020, September 2020, just shortly before Miller would have won his seat on the Clark County Council, and shortly before that first EMS contract for New Chapel was approved by the City Council. Now we're going to go through a brief history of New Chapel EMS contracts in Clark County, how they came to be, who approved them, who voted on them in a little more detail, and everything we know from a records documents perspective. Let's go back to October 2020 when COVID was going on, so everything was pretty crazy. That's when we start seeing discussions in the regular meeting of the Clark County Commissioners. Attorney Scott Lewis presented the Memorandum of Agreement for Emergency Medical Ambulance Service in Clark County, Indiana, with New Chapel EMS. The commissioners have been working diligently with Dr. Yazel and the EMS Subcommittee to come up with a plan for the ambulance situation. Dr. Yazel submitted a letter stating that the EMS Subcommittee unanimously recommends that the county choose New Chapel EMS to provide emergency ambulance service for the entire county. This was Dr. Yazel's letter of recommendation for that very original contract. Pursuant to your recent request that the Clark County Health Department provide a recommendation to provide EMS services, we respectfully submit this letter in support of New Chapel EMS. Several factors were considered in this decision, including the services provided within the county over the last few months, a unanimous resolution of support for New Chapel from the Clark County 911 Board, as well as the unanimous support of the County EMS Subcommittee. Again, we don't know who those people are. We respectfully request that in future negotiations, we maintain standards for appropriate coverage of the county, including enforcement of response time goals. Wonder if we have met those goals. I would like to clarify that this recommendation is secondary to the emergent nature of the current situation. We recommend once an agreement for service is in place for the immediate future, a concurrent formal RFP should follow to determine a longer-term agreement for the county. Okay, signed by Dr. Yazel, the officer of the Clark County Health Department. An agreement was worked out where New Chapel would receive a one-year subsidy of $700,000 paid in 12 installments to provide ambulance services to the entire county. The commissioners are on the agenda for the October council meeting to request additional appropriations for the remaining 3 months of 2020. Now, remember, the Clark County commissioners are like the executive branch of government. They are the ones who enter into contracts. The Clark County Council represents the legislative or fiscal branch of local government, and they are the money people. They are the ones who approve the money. There have been conversations with each of the municipalities in order to share the funding the same way Emergency 911 is funded. New Chapel is ready to start upon the passing of the agreement. New Chapel will carry their own insurance and include the county as an additional insured so that the county is not liable. We will point out that Commissioner Sellers, that would be Connie Sellers, she is up for re-election this year in 2024. So Commissioner Sellers motioned to approve the memorandum of agreement for EMS services. Glover seconded. Okay, so Connie Sellers is also the vice chair of the Clark County GOP, right under Jamey Noel. She has also, which the news has covered, received campaign donations from the Noels. Okay, so then we go over to, because next they have to get permission for the money, with the money. So Clark County Council, this was on October 19th, 2020. The only one absent was Brittany Ferry. And remember, Jamey Noel and Brittany Ferry have a child together. They had a custody case and child support case that was just recently unsealed. Okay, so she wasn't present for this conversation. But here we've got Commissioner Jack Kaufman presented the request for additional appropriations for 1186 for contract services. 1186 is just the internal budget item number that helps them keep track of budget items. These funds will subsidize New Chapel EMS for ambulance services that they provide for the remainder of 2020. Dr. Yazel with the Health Department stated that the EMS proposal that was selected was done so by a unanimous decision from the Health Department, the 911 Board, and the EMS Subcommittee. I'll go into this, but we are not sure who these people are. The 911 Board and the EMS Subcommittee is allegedly not any official branch of government, not anything officially set up through Clark County government. So these people are pretty much unknown to us at this time. And we've got records requests out to try to get more information about who would be overseeing and advising, especially on a unanimous basis, these contracts. It seems like the attorney for the council is maybe suggesting that they didn't really have anything to do with it. So they're kind of throwing the ball back in the health department's court, saying, we didn't really recommend this. We don't know how they came up with it. So talk to the health department. So the EMS subcommittee was not a committee that was organized by or appointed by the commissioners or any other governing body of Clark County government. The EMS subcommittee was informally organized by staff members of the health department and by first responders located throughout the county to provide a recommendation to Dr. Yazel, the county health officer. If there are any records of the EMS subcommittee other than the 2 separate written recommendations from Dr. Yazel to the commissioners, which have been provided, the health department may have those records. Therefore, please contact the health department attorney concerning any records that may exist concerning the EMS subcommittee. Unfortunately, this is not dated, but this was received really recently, and we have submitted those records. Billy Scott, Clark County coroner, stated that he supports the decision 100%. FYI, Clark County coroner is also up for re-election in 2024. Commissioner Kaufman stated that he approves of the process that was taken to make the decision, and the commissioners voted to accept the recommendation. Attorney Scott Lewis stated that agreement that Clark County has with New Chapel subjects New Chapel to all federal and state laws and covers all legal requirements. Councilperson Linford pointed out that the ambulance services have always been provided by private entities. New Chapel has already been providing services for half of the county. Now they will provide services for the entire county. Matt Owen with New Chapel, which Matt Owen is one of the top guys at Jamey Noel's New Chapel, discussed their plan for locations of ambulances and how each unit will be staffed and prepared for emergencies. Councilperson Bennett explained that it was the commissioner's job to approve the contract, and council's job is to appropriate the money for the contract. The council has an obligation to fund the safety of the community. Councilperson Bennett motioned to approve. for 1186. Councilperson Vissing seconded. We know Vissing has received a null donation. Councilperson Newland questioned why a contract is being established in the middle of the year. Commissioner Kaufman explained that an interlocal agreement must be drafted to get all municipalities on board for funding. It was important for the safety of the community to get the contract with New Chapel established quickly. Commissioner Kaufman has called all the town managers except for one, and they are on board. Dr. Yazel explained that the health department did put out an RFP for the ambulance contract, but they only took proposals from 2 services who could rapidly respond due to the emergence of the situation. Councilperson Hollis questioned whether the contract was detailed enough and if there was a plan going forward. Commissioner Kaufman explained that the contract that was approved is only a 3-month contract. It is abbreviated in order to get coverage for the county in a timely manner. Okay, now remember that Kaufman said that this was an abbreviated contract because the agreement is very short. It references a lengthier emergency plan, but nowhere upon our records request have we received any kind of longer, more detailed contract that they have received past this 2020 mark that would outline the terms and conditions, that kind of thing for New Chapel EMS. Then here is the actual memorandum of agreement, first day of October 2020. It outlines which areas get how many ambulances. It does outline the $700,000 to be provided in 12 monthly installments. We are taking note that it is signed by Jack Kaufman, president of the Clark County Commissioners, and the New Chapel EMS representative here is Matt Owen, EMS Division Chief. Now, this is very short because as Kaufman had said in the minutes, it's abbreviated because they were trying to get it passed quickly. And then it just references this ordinance number 2-2014. I think that's the year that it was probably put into place. An ordinance amending the public safety plan. So this is really the length of the document. The lengthiest part is just that the agreement references the safety plan. So there is not a newer contract in place. One thing to note here, and if you want this full document, we have it available on our Telegram channel. And okay, page 12, we thought was interesting. All books and records of any provider shall be available to the Clark County Health Officer or his designee within limits of patient confidentiality restrictions. All providers under the terms of this section shall report to the health officer and provide the following information. On a monthly basis, the number of calls received by the provider per month and the average response time for each call, and in addition thereto, the type of transport, emergency or non-emergency. All permitted providers shall file an annual audited financial statement. They shall also file an annual report specifically showing the number of calls, the type of transport, average response times, and any other information required. Okay, so we've got records request out to figure out if, first of all, what they were analyzing when they've renewed these contracts. What were the response times? We've heard that they're not too good. So we will try to verify that information. And then very curious to know what the audited financial statements would say, if there are any. But here it does outline the response times that are expected. An ambulance shall be on the scene of each life-threatening emergency call within 8 minutes on 80% of all calls originating within the service area and 95% within 10 minutes of all calls originating within the service area. We move on to 2021 because 2021, this addendum is renewed. So in 2021, County Attorney Scott Lewis presented a memorandum of agreement for emergency medical ambulance service in Clark County, Indiana. The memorandum of agreement extends the original memorandum of agreement dated October 1st for an additional 6 months, effective from October 1st through April 1st. Why they only did 6 months in the middle of the year, I do not know. At the same rate of $58,333.33 per month. Commissioner Sellers motioned to approve it again. Commissioner Glover seconded, motioned approved. Okay, moving forward. So this is back to the 2021 contract that is the renewal, and these are just one page. So extension of memorandum, it just says that basically they're extending the original from 2020. I don't know where that longer contract is. It's certainly not here for the same rate. And this one would be signed by Brian Glover, and this would be signed on New Chapel EMS side by Matt Owen. We move on to 2022, and if you'll notice here, these are not conversations that are being had during the normal meeting minutes. They're calling department head meeting. So we had to special request these minutes. That's just when they discuss extra things with heads of departments. So County Attorney Scott Lewis presented a memorandum of agreement for emergency medical services in Clark County. Memorandum of agreement extends the prior agreement for an additional 9 months. Why 9 months? Do not know. Effective from April 1st through January 1st, maybe to get them through the rest of the year, to be on more of an annual cycle. Now the rate goes up to $87,500 per month. So it went up from $58,333.33 all the way up to $87,500 a month. So there's not a lot of discussion here when the price goes up, and there's not a lot of discussion about what goals maybe have been met for them to renew this contract. It's just thrown into a head of department meeting, and again, Commissioner Connie Sellers motioned to approve it, and Commissioner Kaufman seconded. Those are the two, they're all Republicans, but Republicans who would be under Jamey Noel's leadership of the local Clark County GOP, and he would have some control about whether they made it onto the ballot for their next election. And here are the council minutes for that. You can see at this meeting, everybody was present. Now John Miller is on the council. Jamey Noel's buddy, Matt Owen's buddy, Brittany Ferry is on there. A lot of these people have taken campaign donations from the Noels. They do not recuse themselves from the vote. They do not abstain. They go ahead and they vote. Brian Glover with the Clark County Commissioners presents requests for additional appropriations and contract services. Additional appropriations for Fund 8950 contract services. So it's just got a different name this time. Contract services in the amount of $287,500, of which $262,500 is for EMS services. There are no questions about it. I don't know if the council speaks to commissioners outside of these meetings. They're not supposed to. Discussions are supposed to happen in front of the public so that it's all recorded and documented. So there are no questions whatsoever about this. Councilperson Doherty motions to approve it, and Councilperson Vissing seconded, carried 7-0. Interestingly, in January 2022, before that vote had taken place, we also would just like to take note that they have all of these boards that some of the council members are assigned to. This one we noticed John Miller joined. It was Barbara Hollis. This is the old appointment, and this is the new appointment for 2022. So John Miller jumped onto the Commissioners/Emergency Management Advisory Board. So I don't know if this advisory board is who might be helping to guide the council and the commissioners in renewing the contracts. We are trying to find out more about that. But if so, John Miller would have a total conflict of interest, being very close with Jamey Noel and Matt Owen. And we do not know if this E911 fiscal board would be part of that recommendation. Now let's go to the April 2022 renewal. Again, it's just this one little page. There's no full-length contract that we've been able to see. It's still at that $87,500 per month, signed by Brian Glover and signed by, again, Matt Owen. And here's the recommendation letter in 2022. The Clark County Health Department and the EMS Subcommittee of the 911 Board have reviewed the RFPs from both New Chapel and AMR EMS. So AMR is the other one that they have taken proposals for. We would like to thank both services for the interest in serving the citizens of Clark County and for their hard work in putting quality proposals together. After review of both, it is our unanimous recommendation that the Commissioners negotiate with New Chapel to provide service for the next 3 years as per outlined in the RFP. So now they've gone from 3 months to 6 months to 9 months to 3 years. There are several factors that led us to this conclusion. New Chapel has provided services for the past 2 years and done an outstanding job during an extremely difficult time period. They've repeatedly shown the ability to flex several EMS units in response to surges in run volume. Prior to their assuming the Clark County contract, there were over 100 runs where the responding agency indicated no truck was available in a 6-month period. In the 2 years as the primary provider, there have been less than 10. We've got records requests out to back up that statement. We will see what comes back. Their fire background allows them to seamlessly integrate with local fire departments, streamlining responses. As a local company, they have shown to be immediately responsive to any issues or concerns that have happened and have been actively working with the County EMS Board to improve protocols, quality of care, and other initiatives. Also, it is important to compare apples to apples, and the coverage typically provided by New Chapel involves several paramedic trucks, while AMR proposes 2. Again, we do not see any contract to support that New Chapel EMS provides several paramedic trucks, where AMR only proposed 2. We do feel as this accounts for a significant portion of the difference in subsidies requested. When the other factors are considered along with this, we feel there is a clear indication that New Chapel EMS is the best service to provide EMS coverage to our citizens. Respectfully, Eric Yazel. Now let's go to 2023. This is again a department head meeting, not a regular meeting, so we had to special request these minutes. April 5th, 2023. And we go down here. Scott Lewis presented a memorandum of agreement for emergency medical services. Memorandum of agreement extends the prior agreement for an additional 3 years, effective from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2025 at the same rate of $87,500 per month. It's the same rate, so at least it didn't go up, and it's locked in for 3 years. Commissioner Kaufman motioned to approve it. Commissioner Sellers seconded. Motion approved. Okay, so here is what that one looks like. First day of January 2023 between Clark County and New Chapel EMS. And it is signed by Brian Glover and Matt Owen on the New Chapel EMS side. And that concludes our history of the Clark County New Chapel EMS contracts. And we want you to be able to see who is running for your local offices here in 2024, because it will be a pretty big and pretty interesting year. We have got our Clark County commissioners both up for re-election. There are 3 Clark County commissioners. 2 of them are up for re-election. Connie Sellers and Jack Kaufman, both are Republicans. But this year they do have a competitor, Democrat Katie Morgan. We are really hoping that a Republican candidate or 2 will join the race for Clark County Commissioner. The deadline is February 9th at noon. We would love to have some additional candidates for the Republicans outside of those who have presently served office and who have historically approved the EMS contracts. As for the Clark County Council, there are 3 at-large positions up for election this year in 2024. We do not know much about these candidates yet, other than John Miller, and I hope by the end of this video you know our opinion about him. Many convention delegates have already filed for candidacy. The county coroner spot is up for election, and several House of Representative candidates have already filed. One final note is that it has been brought to my attention that Brittany Ferry is not pronounced Brittany Ferry, but Ferry. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, certain group members. However, I do not feel like going back and re-recording all this audio. So moving forward, I will use the correct name, Brittany Ferry. That's it for this time. Please remember to like and subscribe. Please check out our website. Please feel free to send us an email if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. And as always, you are welcome to join us on our Telegram channel, where we get you information and drop documents a lot faster. And with that, we are going to leave you with a little blast from the past.
I've come to know him as an honorable man.
He don't really play the game. He's honest and truthful with the people.
He treats his employees as like his family members.
Very resourceful.
He can make a penny squeal.
He is the epitome of professionalism and has a true passion for public service.
Between his integrity, his honesty, his family values, his moral compass.
Professional. His character, utmost.
My name is Ray Cunningham. I'm a retired firefighter, and I ask you to vote for Jamey Noel for sheriff.
I'm Matt Owen on the Jeffersonville City Council, and I ask you to vote for Jamey Noel for sheriff on November the 4th.
I'm Dr. Tim McDonald, an educator at Greater Clark Schools, and Jamey Noel has my vote for sheriff.
Y a todos los hispanos que vivimos en Clark County, si pueden votar, háganlo. Jamey Noel is going to be the best.
When my dad becomes sheriff, he'd treat people with kindness and integrity.
I'm Misty Noel. I'd like to ask for your vote for my husband, Jamey Noel, for Clark County Sheriff on November the 4th.
I'm Jamey Noel. I approve this message and would like to ask for your vote for sheriff on November the 4th.
Oh boy. Retractions, anyone?
You gotta keep in mind you're still in here on a program.
But I do still have an honor code. I have to keep some people close while I am here.
Getting a little bit too M80. We wanted to just make sure the end goal was the same. You know, we need perspective of this jail. You know, we don't need you to become an inmate.
Sheriff, how did Ryan help you as a participant in the program?
Unfortunately, he showed me a lot of what not to do. He actually blended right into the inmate hierarchy and did stuff that they were doing that he wasn't supposed to do.
I think it was misconstrued that I was just trying to, be inmate-y. And that may have technically been the case, but it wasn't really the goal.
You don't seem to be buying that.
I'm not amused by it, I'll tell you that. It's disturbing to me. I think that's how bullying starts. That's how it starts in the schools. That's how it starts in the pod. It's not fun. I didn't think it was cute. It's one thing to joke, but this is beyond that.
Joking or not, there's going to be criminal charges placed on the inmates that were involved in some of this stuff.
Unfortunately, sometimes even people that we put in an undercover capacity assimilate and start acting like inmates.